Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaste, dear friends. A very warm welcome from Team Param Vedanta to session 5 of our study into Panchadashi, the first chapter, Tattva Viveka. In our last session, we studied shlokas 13 to 16, where Vidyaranya introduced the Vedantic view of Pratibandha, that is, obstacles to self-realization, especially how ignorance, that is, avidya, fueled by samsara, veils our awareness of the self. He also elaborated on Prakruti and its various aspects to understand and overcome ignorance. The relationship between Maya, an aspect of Prakriti, and Ishwara was also explored to provide deeper context to the spiritual study. Today, we advance into shlokas 17 to 20, where we will reflect on the role of avidya in the bondage to the jiva and how creation arises from Tamo Pradhana Prakriti and the emergence of Gnanendriyas from Sattva Guna, and then how the mind and intellect, that is Antakarana, are born from Sattva Guna. These verses will help us further understand the perceived reality and how the self appears to be entangled in it. We have with us today Dr. Meenal, Srimati Vidya Prabhu, Srimati Neeta, and Srimati Padma, who will each share their insights on these verses. Later in the session, we will also have a reflective teaching quiz led by Srimati Neeta to help reinforce today's key takeaways. Let us now begin with a brief recap of the previous session presented by Dr. Ashwini, followed by Dr. Hegde sir, who will take us into today's verses. Over to you, Ashwini.
Thank you, Mamta. We will be recapping the verses 13 to 16 before we start the actual class. So 13th verse goes like this. Pratibandhosti bhatiti vyavahararha vastuni tam nirasya viruddhasya tasyotpadana muchyate. When we know the definition of any term, we know that better, but we do find it difficult to follow. In this verse, Swamy Vidyaranya tries to define obstacle or pratibandha. What is an obstacle or a pratibandha? Now, a pratibandha is something that obstructs the total knowledge. If we have knowledge of anything, we try to describe it in a particular way. Now, this is given a particular terminology called as asti bhati vyavahara. Now, what is asti? Asti is to exist. Bhati is to experience that particular object. Only when it is existing and we experience that particular object, that description is, we clearly understand that as there is an asti bhati vyavahara to that particular object. But if there is any obstacle, we neither experience the object and we may even claim it doesn't exist. Then it becomes na asti na bhati vyavahara. So an obstacle or a pratibandha is defined as that because of which asti bhati vyavahara of the object is converted to na asti na bhati vyavahara. Now, for example, like we are standing in a, Mysore Chamundeshwari hills to see the, to take the darshan of the Chamundeshwari deity, and you have a tall person standing in front of you, it doesn't mean that, and you are not able to see. Just because you are not able to see, it doesn't mean that Chamundeshwari does not exist. We are just not able to experience because of that one particular tall person who happens to be one particular obstacle. That's all. But what is it? I mean, this pratibandha not only knocks off the description, but in its place, the obstacle brings the opposite vyavahara. Now, for example, one starts to give an inappropriate description because of that particular pratibandha. Now, it happens very frequently with Ishwara, existence of Ishwara. Even though Ishwara deserves asti bhati vyavahara, Atis or, Nastikas has some pratibandha, and for them, Ishwara will not exist because they don't see him around. The obstacle removes asti bhati vyavahara for all nastikas in the case of the existence of Ishwara. So they give opposite description of na asti na bhati. Now we will see in the next verse how does Swamy Vidyaranya applies this description. In the 14th verse, now as we have understood, Pratibandha is responsible for the change in description and the obstacle may not be the same in every case. Now, if we take this in regard to Atmananda, now in regard to Atmananda, the obstacle is not knowing that I am the source of infinite Ananda. Giving importance to external sources for finite Ananda, with this beginningless ignorance, we tend to remain in samsara and suffer the pains of samsara. It creates several misconceptions and confusions regarding us and others too. So, our samsara continues so long as we don't tackle this ignorance. Now, Swamiji also mentions that uniqueness of ignorance is it does not have natural death. See, the no pralayam can solve this if we do not want to solve it by gaining knowledge. We carry the same ignorance whether we are at Himalayas or we are at deep sea or doing a world tour unless we want to eradicate it with our knowledge. In the next verse, what is this ignorance? Chidanandamaya Brahma Pratibimba Samanvita Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna Prakrutir Dvividha Cha Sa. Now we know that we have to tackle ignorance, which is the problem of humanity. It is better we have some knowledge about ignorance. That avidya, that ignorance is answered in this particular verse. Swamy Vidyaranya introduces the factor Prakriti. Prakriti is a basic form of matter. It consists all the three gunas. It is Trigunatmika, Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. It is subtler than all forms of energy. Now, Sattva is the knowing faculty, Rajas is the activity faculty, and Tamas is inertia. It is neither knowing nor any activity, nor doing faculty. So now it is called Dravya Shakti. Now, Prakriti is capable of reflecting or manifesting the consciousness principle. The word we use for consciousness principle is Brahman. And the Brahman, which is infinite and is capable of giving reflection to Prakriti, and therefore Prakriti enjoys the borrowed consciousness, which is Chidananda Maya Swarupa Brahman reflected onto Prakriti. In the last verse, that is the 16th verse, the two Prakritis here in which reflected consciousness available. We saw the word Vividha. So that is two kinds of Prakriti, two types of Prakriti in which reflected consciousness available are. The first one is Sattva Pradhana, or it is also called as Shuddha Sattva. Here the dominant factor is Sattva, that is Sattvic, or the knowing faculty. This is called as Maya. The second one is Raja Pradhana. This is also called as Malina Shuddha Sattva Prakriti. So this particular Rajapradhana Prakriti is described as Avidya, or you can call it as ignorance. Now Maya and Avidya are inert matter and of original Prakriti. Now Swamiji gives examples of two mirrors where one is clear and another is dull, dust coated or broken or spotted. Both have the capacity to reflect, but quality will not be the same. So Maya Pratibimbita Caitanya may be bright and Avidya Pratibimbita Caitanya may be dull because of Malina Sattva. When we apply this to Ishwara, Maya Pratibimbita Caitanya can be Ishwara, which is Ishwara reflected from the brighter surface of Prakriti. Because of the God's grace, God is able to keep Maya under control and also uses it for Srishti, Sthiti and Laya of creation. Since Maya cannot affect Ishwara, Ishwara is omniscient. There is no Pratibimba problem here. There is no Ananda which is required from the external world. He is Sarvagna and he is omnipotent. The next verses, the following verses today, which we are going to discuss, will be continued. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashwini, for an excellent recap of the verses we studied in the last class. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Let's relook at Panchadashi so far. We are studying a Prakarana Grantha, and there are 15 chapters with 1571 verses. Each chapter is complete in itself, and Swami Anubhavananda considers this to be a Bible for students of Vedanta. In the first two verses were focused on Mangalacharana. There is a nice verse, Namashri Shankarananda Guru Padambujam Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasika Eka Karmani. My Guru's only job is to take away the samsara problem of the students, and that is the role of my Guru. Now, the first two verses were related to that. And the topic he introduces, Tattva Viveka Prakaranam. I will give you very clearly the knowledge of Tattva, the truth. That is what he promises in that. And he does a miracle. That means from verse 3 to verse 10, he does a certain analysis of our own experiences. He said, now you're listening to me. As you're listening, just analyze your experience. You are hearing my voice, but you're also aware of that conscious principle because of which you are listening. At the same time, you can see things around in your room. You are watching, but then the experiencer in both instances is the same. The one who's listening to my voice or the one who's seeing all the objects is the same. And if you go from this experience to every experience in the waking dream, deep sleep state from your childhood until now, what is that which is constant? What I am conscious of is constantly changing, but that I am conscious is constant. That means there is some awareness principle which is always there. That means that conscious principle is nityaha. It has been there from the very beginning. It is there in all the avasthas, waking, dream, deep sleep state. And that which is there at all times and does not undergo change is also defined as Sat. So in just verse 3 to 8, Vidyaranya Swami has declared that my true nature is Sat and Chit, or Sat Eva Chit. Then he goes to analyze through a nice experience or a nice teaching in Brihadaranya Upanishad, Maitreya Brahmana, where Yajnavalika asks his wife Maitreyi, whom do we love the most? And the answer that all of us love ourselves the most. Why do we love ourselves? Because I'm a source of ananda. And then he proves through our own experiences that I am Sat Chit Ananda. That means in just few verses, we have reached the state of Mahavakya. How do I know it is Mahavakya? See, that I am Sat Chit Ananda, this has come through my own experience. Experienced objects differ, the experiencer is the same. That experiencer is there all the time. So that experiencer is both Sat and Chit, and I am of the nature of Ananda. Now the scriptures say Brahman is also of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda, and now we can equate I am Sat Chit Ananda. That means it took him only 8 verses to give us the greatest truth. That means Panchadashi strictly is over. We don't need 15 chapters. We don't need 1571 verses. Even this present chapter, Tattva Viveka, is complete in the first 10 verses itself. I know all this, but then there is a problem. I know I am, but I do not know I am that. I do not know I am limitless. Although this knowledge my teacher has given to me very clearly, there is something that is blocking. So Vidyaranya comes and asks, what is that which is blocking this truth? And then the block is described in the through a very nice example of children chanting. When you are watching your own child or grandchild chanting amongst a group of children, you can see the child's mouth open, but you can't hear the voice distinctly because of the noise of. So the voice is being obstructed. Although the child's voice is asti and bhati, because of certain obstruction, it has become na asti na bhati or asti bhati ayogya. So that means there is some avarana shakti. And what is that avarana which blocks me? For that has been introduced as Maya. Now, the teacher realizes that if I have to help the student, I have to come down to what is called the triangular format. The triangular format is introducing certain mithya objects called the Jiva, Jagat, Ishwara, and this is called Adhyaropa, deliberately superimposing. We agree with the student that I am a limited being. There is a God who has created this world, and the world around me is Jagat. This is called the Jiva Jagat. And then let us see, once the student understands, then we will be able to do the Apavada. Because there is partial knowledge and partial ignorance, I have this problem of what is called the Hridaya Granthi. The Hridaya Granthi is a combination of Avidya, Kama, Karma. Although I am Purna, I have a feeling of I am limited. But an idea comes into my mind, if I do this, if I do that, I will be complete. That is called karma. And when karma comes, I cannot be quiet. I have to run to do some karma, and karma produces punarjanma. Punarapi Jananam cycle comes, and that is a vicious cycle that is called the Hridaya Granthi. So now we have a diagnosis as to why, although I am already that, why am I suffering this vicious cycle of samsara is because of an obstacle. What is that obstacle? What is that? Whenever we see a picture of Sri Dakshinamurti, Sri Dakshinamurti is an example of Ishwara. Ishwara also has Maya, but Maya is under control. So Ishvara is able to keep Maya under control. And that is why this teaching that we have got in the first 10 verses, that I am Atma Brahma Mahavakya, is something that I have to remember all the time. Now, there are two Vadas. Remember, it is called Avacheda Vada and Pratibimba Vada. Now, these are the two methods by which the teacher comes into what is called the triangular format to help us to understand our true nature. Now, Avacheda means limitations because of Upadhi. The example given is of that of the pot space and total space. Can you see the nature of space within a pot compared to the total space? You will see there is absolutely no difference. There is a sense of being limited. Space seems to be limited by the pot. But what is the truth? The pot is in space. And actually, there is no limitations from the perspective of space. Pot space and total space are not apart from each other. I don't have to break the pot for my pot space to recognize that I am the total space. This is called the Avachedavada. The other, which we will be studying here in this chapter of Panchadashi, is called Pratibimba Vada. Pratibimba Vada is when the sunlight reflects on a reflecting medium. The reflection is dependent on the quality of the medium. If the medium is very bright, the reflection is bright. If the medium is contaminated or malina sattva, it is not so pure, the reflection is also going to be impure. And that is why, based on the kind of the reflecting surface, you can have Sattva Pradhana, Raja Pradhana, Tama Pradhana, because now we come to the Jiva Jagat Ishwara triangle. So today's class is all about that. And these are only terms that we need to be very clear. Now, in today's class, pay attention to what do you mean by Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, because at the end of the class, we are going to have a very tough quiz. And if you are able to catch that, that means Prakriti has got three gunas. Whenever the upadhi is predominantly sattvic, that upadhi which reflects predominantly sattvic is called Maya. That upadhi, that mirror which reflects predominantly rajas is called avidya, and that which reflects tamas is called prakriti. Now, when the reflection comes from Maya, that is called Ishwara. When the reflection comes from Avidya, it is called Jiva. Just remember these terms. I'm just giving you a little introduction so that today's class will be easy. Why do we suffer? We have seen this example. Now, in this Jiva Jagat Ishwara triangle, in a cricket game, the batsman, comparable to all of us, is now facing the bowler and a very oppressive fielders all around who are hell-bent in making us out. Now that is the samsara. And I appeal to the umpire who's symbolic of God. And this is the game that we are in the game of Jiva Jagat Ishwara. Remember, all these are only mithya. Why? I am already that. So on the one hand, let us play the game of life, all the time remembering it is a game, that there is no Jagat apart from me, there is no Ishwara who's other than me, but I'm in the middle of the game and let me enjoy this game. The opening verse of today's class will be by Dr. Meenal. Dr. Meenal, please.
Thank you, sir. Namaste. Let us begin by reciting the verse 17. Avidya avashagastwanyas tadvai chitradhanekadha sakarana shariram syad prajnas tatrabhimanavan. So, as we saw in the nice recap given to us by Dr. Ashwini, we saw that Brahman and Maya together become Ishwara. In this verse, we are going to see what happens to the other or the Anya aspect of Prakruti, which is called as Avidya, which Hegde sir was just telling us about. This Avidya is dominated by Tamas and Rajas with very little Sattva. And due to this, the medium itself, that is Avidya, is dull. The Jiva originating from Avidya and Brahman or Chaitanya also becomes dull with only a partial knowledge. Therefore, a Jiva is not omniscient like Ishwara. He is not the controller, but rather a slave of Avidya. This state of Jiva at the causal level is known as Prajna. Due to the diversity, variety, and plurality of Avidya, there are equal varieties of Jivatmas also. This Avidya is called as Karana Sharira or the causal body. The next slide, please, sir. Let us take an example of reflected sun seen in the mirror as given by Swami Paramatmanandaji. The reflected sun is intimate with the mirror and many properties of the reflection are identified with and defined by the mirror. But the reflection can claim both, one, that it belongs to the original sun, or two, it can say, I am one with the mirror image. The brightness of the image obviously belongs to the original sun. When the image claims, I belong to the original sun, then that is called wisdom. And when it claims it belongs to the mirror, then that is ignorance. Likewise, a Jiva identifies with his or her body rather than identifying with a Brahman or Chaitanya. Bringing about a change in these views is the true purpose of both Vedanta as well as Vedantic studies. The next slide, please, sir. Vidyaranya Swami introduces Vedantic teachings where a total picture of creation is given as the Jiva, Jagat and Ishwara triangle. He introduces a threefold Prakruti. Sattva Pradhan Prakruti known as Maya, Rajo Pradhan Prakruti known as Avidya and Tamo Pradhan Prakruti which is simply called Prakruti. So Prakruti is designated into three, Maya, Avidya and Prakruti, which are in turn responsible for the arrival of Ishwara, Jiva, and Jagat, respectively. Of these three, Maya is only one, and therefore God is also only one. Avidya is manifold, which we have just discussed, and Prakruti is also capable of multiplying and evolving into several forms. Without Brahman or Purusha, all of these three, Maya, Avidya, and Prakruti, are Jada or inert by themselves. And all these three inert factors play live roles only when they are activated by one principle which is beyond all these three. And that principle is none other than the Brahman or Chaitanya. When this Chaitanya gets reflected in Maya, we get the Pratibimba Chaitanya number 1, which is called Ishwara. The reflecting medium and the reflection cannot be separated, and this inseparable mixture is what is known as Purusha Prakruti or Ardhanarishwara, the universal parents. This Ishwara is glorious and illuminous because the reflecting medium is Sattva Pradhana, and this is also what makes Ishwara omniscient, that is, having Sarva Gunatvam, Sarva Vyapitvam. Next, we have Avidya, enlivened by Brahman or Chaitanya, resulting in Pratibimba Chaitanya number 2, that is called Jiva, Prajna, or the Karana Sharira. Again, the reflected consciousness and the reflecting medium cannot be separated. Either both will exist or both will perish. One remaining without the other is not possible. The Prajna Jivas are endowed with an inferior reflecting medium, which is Rajo Pradhana Prakruti, giving Jivas only half knowledge. This is responsible for misconception, ignorance, and illusion. The Tamoguna Pradhana Prakruti with Brahman manifests as Jagat or universe, but because of the Tamoguna, the consciousness aspect is not clearly manifest. Instead, it manifests as Sat Amsha or Sadabhasa. The next slide, please, sir. Now, coming to the verse proper, Avidya avasya gatu anya. The other or the anya prakruti here is avidya, which with Brahman becomes the jiva, who is not the controller but rather slave of avidya. Tad vaichitryat anekadha. It has a variety and mixture due to the multitude of individual jivas, with each one having a different composition of rajas, tamas, and sattva. Sa karana shariram syat. This avidya becomes the karana sharir or causal body of the creation. The word sharira here denotes perishability, and the creation is perceived as a temporary one, lasting only as long as the jiva remains subjected to avidya, ignorance, and resolving with self-knowledge. Pradnya Tatra Abhimanavan. So this Pradnya gets identified with each of these units, and unfortunately the Jiva tends to identify with the body rather than identifying with the Chaitanya. So this verse essentially talks about Ishwara Jiva Jagat as being the grand design of Brahman in total creation. The very same Brahman manifests as Jiva, Jagat, and also Ishwara. Thank you very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Dr. Meenal. That was a brilliant explanation of a very difficult verse where the problem of avidya, that means the problem of all of us. And what is the common problem of all of us? I am already that. I am already that means I am of the nature of Parabrahma, Paramatma. But then I'm suffering from all kinds of limitations. Remember one picture all the time of Sri Dakshinamurti of keeping his right leg on avidya of forgetfulness. And remember those 5 capsules. I'm of the nature of eternal, all-pervading consciousness. Because of me, I'm the only source of permanent peace, security, of happiness. I enliven this body and give existence to this world. This truth should be remembered at all times. If I remember this, I am of the same status of Sri Dakshinamurti. If I forget it, I come to samsara. So this verse talks about the great difference between Ishwara. Ishwara, who has control over Maya, and all of us who are controlled by avidya or the Maya component. We'll look for it. We'll see the tamas component by Vidya. Vidya, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Swamy Vidyaranya goes to the depth of his teaching to bring clarity to the Vedantic knowledge. Since Prakruti is Tamoguna Pradhana, the Chaitanya reflection is not there. In Tama Pradhana Prakriti, the consciousness aspect will not clearly manifest. The Sat Amsha is only predominant. Sat is manifest in Prakriti, blessed by Sadabhasa Brahman. This Tamas Pradhana Prakriti evolves into the universe. Ishwara has been talked about already. Jiva has been talked about just now. In this verse, creation of the world is being addressed. The verse goes like this. Tama Pradhana Prakrute Stabdho Gayeshwarajnaya Viyat Pavana Tejo Ambu Bhuvo Bhutani Jati. The meaning goes like this. At the command of Ishwara and for the experience of Prajna, the five subtle elements, ether, air, fire, water, and earth, arose from the part of Prakriti in which tamas predominates. By Prakriti, we mean that which is subject to evolution. Next slide, please. Prakashena Kriti Yogatvat iti Prakriti. Therefore, Swamy Vidyaranya says, Tama Pradhana Prakritehi. The Prakriti originated or evolved. This Tama Pradhana Prakriti gives way to Panchabhutas like Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi, the earth. They are Jada Pradhana. Sattva and Rajoguna are suppressed by Tamoguna, and therefore Prithvi cannot know or do anything. Because of the suppressed Rajas, it cannot move. Because of the suppressed Sattva Guna, it cannot know anything. Any object of consumption has to be a Chetana. Otherwise, Bhogya Vastu will run away when we want to consume. Therefore, Bhogaya, the inert universe, is meant for the Jivas Bhoga. Next slide, please. The Jivas are born into this body due to our past karmas, the fulfillment of which is to be worked out through this body. For the sake of the experience of the past karmas of individuals, a field has to be created because experience is not possible unless there is a field, an area of action. This area of action for the working out of the karmas of the individuals is this vast world which God has created. This world of creation is constituted of the elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether in their gross form. And in their subtle form, they are Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Ishwara's role in this creation may be compared to that of a potter who conceives of how to produce a pot from the raw material clay. Next slide, please. As Ishwara is responsible for doing all the intense planning of subtle creation, he is called the Nimitta Karanam, the efficient cause. He is also known as the sentient cause since the subtle creation gives sentiency to creation. The word Jadmire in the verse means the final step of this entire plan to be executed. The five elements are thus born for Prajna Jivas. A question may arise here. Why is it only for the consumption of Jiva and not for Ishwara? Here, what we have to understand is that the Jiva alone has accumulated Punya and Papa. Punya and Papa can be exhausted by Sukha, Dukkha, Bhoga. Ishwara does not have Sanchita, Agami, or Prarabdha. Therefore, the world is not for Ishwara's Bhoga. Another question arises here. When the world was created first, there was no karma for creation of jivas. Here, the point to be cleared is when the world was created first, there was no karma for creation of jivas. So, how can one account for the first srishti? So, the answer is there is no first creation at all. Creation is a cyclical process, and every time the world is created, it is based on the previous srishti. It keeps track of Punya Papa. One can get away from the local police but never from Ishwara. Thus, all are designed for the sake of Jiva, indicating Ishwara is Nimitta Karanam and Prakriti is Upadana Karanam, the material cause. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namah.
Thank you very much, Vidya, for another nice explanation of the birth of Tanmatras from the Prakriti which is tamas predominant. You will realize here the whole story of creation comes. And creation is a real problem because we are all dealing with certain hypothesis on the basis of adhyaropa apavada. This is something created just to explain. It is like you have gone away from the truth and you've introduced a lie. From one lie, you're leading to another lie. And then you ask, how did the first creation happen? And you have no answer. And then you give another explanation. The truth is very difficult to believe. The truth is ajati vada. There is no such creation at all. But of course, to come to that level, we have to go through all this process of adhyaropa apavada. So now let us come to what comes from the sattva and how the mind comes into being. Neeta, please.
Hari Om. Verse 19. Sattva amshaif. Next slide. Sattvaamshaif panchabhistesham kramadindriya panchakam shotra vagakshirasana granakya mupajayate. From the sattva guna of these 5 subtle elements are born the 5 organs of knowledge: the ears, the skin, eyes, tongue, and the nose, respectively. Kramat, respectively, it means. Next slide. A quick recap of the creation is being explained from verse 15. So, Prakruti is the technical word used for inert matter in this chapter. Prakriti is made up of 3 gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas, interwoven like a hair braid. This trigunatmika Prakriti is divided into 3. Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, which is Pradhana means dominant, which means that there is one dominant guna and the other 2 gunas are also present, but they are subservient to it. They are not absent. So in Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, it is a Shuddh Sattva, and the Tamas and Rajasa are suppressed. The other 2 types of Prakriti are the Raja Pradhana Prakriti, and in that the Rajas is dominant. In Tamas Pradhana, the Tamas is dominant, as the name goes. The Sattva Pradhana Prakriti is called Maya. The Rajas is called Avidya or Karana Sharira, and the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti is called Prakriti itself. Again, they're all 3 inert. When Brahman shines upon this inert matter, you get from the Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, you get Ishwara. There is only one Ishwara. I'm actually trying to cut short my... there's only one Ishwara. And because Ishwara is Sattva Guna Pradhana, it is all-knowing and it is a master of Maya. It is not controlled by Maya, it's master of Maya. Whereas in Rajas Pradhana Prakriti, this medium is inferior, and so because sattva is not dominant, and therefore knowledge is partial. Half knowledge alone is responsible for misconception and called moha or samsara. When consciousness reflects on this RPP, we get Jiva. It's also referred to as Prajna. There are many Jivas. In Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, we get Prakriti, which is inert, and then from there comes creation. It is one with the possibility of many. The next slide. It's the top part is basically showing the same thing that we discussed. And then we'll just go to the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, which is on the right side in blue. From the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti comes the rest of the creation. In the last verse, we understood that the first to be born from Prakriti are the 5 elements, the 5 subtle elements. Again, we know that Tamas Pradhana Prakriti has Tamas in dominant, but it has some elements of Sattva and Rajas also. So first, the 5 subtle elements are born, which are called Tanmatra, Sukshma Bhutas. They are subtle in nature, and they in turn are responsible for the 17 organs of Sukshma Sharira. The 17 organs are the 5 Jnanendriyas, the 5 Karmendriyas, and the 5 Pranas, and the mind and Buddhi. So 17. The composition of the 5 subtle elements or the Tanmatras is the same as what is of Prakruti, so just like Karana Guna, Karya Anuvartate. If gold has 5% copper, the ornaments will also have 5% copper. So the Tanmatras have tamas dominance, and Sattva and Rajas are also present in lesser quantities. Coming to the verse, 19th. Sir, previous. Coming to the lime green color. Yes, the lime green color. Vidyaranya explains the sattva portion of these 5 elements. From that, we get the 5 Jnanendriyas. From the sattva amsha of the akasha element, we get the organ of sound, the shrotriya, the ears. The quality of akasha or space is sound, and hence the ears are the faculty of hearing. Similarly, the sattva of vayu element, we get the organ of touch, and twak, that is skin. It is lower in subtlety than the ears. From the agni, we get the organ of eyes. From the jala sattva, we get the organ of taste, and called rasnaya. And from the prithvi sattva, we get the organ of smell, the nose, which is called the granaya. Now, these 5 elements are born again from the sattva of the 5 subtle elements. Next slide. Each of these, second point, each of these 5 elements have only one element as its cause. So the sound gives the ears and thereon. Knowledge is always associated with sattva. That's why each organ captures a unique type of knowledge. Each one of them, each organ is independent of the other. The eyes cannot hear, the nose cannot see, etc. These sense organs are subtle in nature. They are not the physical eye, they're not the physical ear, eyes, nose, skin. Those are called golakams. Sattva is maximum in space and minimum in earth. This means that sound is the foremost means of obtaining knowledge, and smell the least. Next slide. In conclusion, Vidyaranya shares the theoretical Vedantic model of creation from verses 15 to 30. This is in theory. The formation of Jnanendriyas is given in this verse. The grand design of creation helps us to get an intellectual grasp of Vedantic teaching. Ultimately, however, it helps us to get the idea of what is the Jiva, the Jagat, and the Ishwara. Ultimately, we should recognize that creation is only part of Adhyaropa Apavada, like Sir has been saying. And as part of the Apavada process, we will be bringing it down. We will be bringing the Mithyatvam of this creation. Creation is just like a movie on the screen. It is an appearance. And sometimes we forget about the movie screen and we just concentrate on the movie, and that's what we are doing. We're concentrating on our body, mind, sense complex. We are concentrating on the earth, on the Jagat, and we have forgotten Brahman, our true nature. This knowledge, which we have discussed from the 5 Jnanendriyas, it requires coordination. The coordinating agent is the Antakaran. The Antakaran, how it is formed, will be explained in the next verse. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Neeta, for giving us a nice overview of the whole process of creation. Creation has come in to be able to explain why, although I am already that, I'm not able to experience my Mahavakya status. That means there is a block. And that block is called Avidya. And there we have Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. All those nicely explained. We have one more presentation by Padma. Padma, please.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 20. Tairantakaranam sarve vritti bhedena tadvida. Mano Vimarsha Rupam Syad, Buddhisya Nishtayatmika. Translation: from the Sattva Guna aspect, all the five elements together is formed the inner instrument. Depending on functional differences, it exists in two ways. When the thoughts are in a state of doubt, it is called mind, while in a decisive state, it is called intellect. Next slide, sir. This verse addresses the antakarna as separate functions of the mind and intellect. The antakarna in some texts is referred to as the fourfold inner instrument, the four functions being manas, chitta, buddhi, and ahankara. Coming to the verse. Next slide, please. Taihi, sarvaihi anantakaranam. Taihi, by these, sarvaihi, that is, sukshma bhuta sattva amsha. Through the sattva part of the five elements, Panchabhuta, the inner organ, Antakarana, is born. Next slide, sir. Why is it called inner organ? The Antakarana operates on the realm of thoughts, while the Jnanendriya sense organs operate on the realm of perceptions, by which we have the capacity to sense the external environment. To explain this, like we are seeing, refer here not to the physical eye, which is sthula sharira, gross, but the capacity to see. We hear, refer here not to the physical ear, but the capacity to hear. Similarly, capacity to feel, taste, and smell. And then convey or relay the information to the inner instrument, which does not directly contact the external world, hence termed as the inner instrument, Antakarana. Antakarana is Samashti, while the Jnanendriyas are Vyasti. The Antakarana needs Sadguna of all the elements, for it has to manage all the sense organs. Next slide, please. Vritti Bhedena Tadvida. The Antakarana in Vritti is Vritti Rupena, is the nature of thoughts. And on the basis of two distinct functions, Tadvida, they are divided into two functional parts, Manas and Buddhi, mind and intellect. Mind and intellect are two functions of the same instrument. Next slide, sir. Mano Vimarsha Rupena Syad. Mana mind is Vimarsha Rupam. That is, the mind is in the mode of doubt. When mind does the function of analyzing the pros and cons called Sankalpa Vikalpa Vyapara, that is, whether it is correct or not, there is indecisiveness and thoughts oscillate between two diverse options. Then next is chitta, the memory. This is stored in the mind. This serves the mind to retain or recollect thoughts by recalling to it all the facts pertaining to each available option. Thoughts that is being rolled over the mind. This is chitta. For example, when asked, what is 18 into 50 equal to? You ponder, mull over for an answer. This is mind. But when you see someone and unable to recollect his name, or when you're in doubt, this is mind. In some texts, chitta is counted as separate function of antakarana. Next slide, sir. Buddhi syad nishchayatmika. Buddhi intellect is nishchayatmika, that is nature of firm conviction, where knowledge is there. For example, someone asks 5 plus 5 and immediately say 10, that's intellect. Or in physics, who derived E equals mc square? Albert Einstein, intellect. A clear flash of understanding when knowledge is definite, clear, firm, unwavering. This is intellect buddhi. Then we come to ahankara, ego. Ego is considered as part of the intellect's function. Intellect makes its decision or responds on the basis of how your ego is affected by it. Ego is that which appropriates all other functions to itself, meaning when thoughts are in progress, ego thinks, I'm thinking. If seeing is going on, ego says, I'm seeing. If intellect understands, ego says, I understand. The ego is reporting to the mind. Next slide, sir. In Nirvana Shatakam, Adi Shankaracharya sings, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, means I'm not the mind, I'm not the I'm not the intellect, I'm not the ego, I'm not the memory, because I am the pure consciousness. Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shivoham. I am existence, consciousness, bliss. Here, when Adi Shankaracharya says, I am not the ego, the I here is not the ego I, but the real I. The I is the experiencer, Sakshi, witness, the pure consciousness, Brahman. Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Padma, for another nice explanation of verse 20. Essentially, we are talking about the two aspects of the mind. What is this buddhi and what is this intellect? Now let us have a quiz, teaching quiz, which will be conducted by Neeta. She has prepared an excellent quiz. I will attempt to answer. Neeta, please.
Namaste, sir. Next slide. For all practical purposes, for the last part of the 20th verse, Swamy Vidyaranya divides the Antakaran into two, mind and intellect. I just want to bring that part up. So we have to match the following. The Sattva Pradhana Prakriti is also called.
All right, I have these choices on the other side. Sattva Pradhana Prakriti is also called Maya.
Okay, Maya, right. The Brahman plus Maya, okay, when Brahman shines on Maya, we get...
when Brahman shines on Maya, we will get Ishwara.
Very good. The Rajas Pradhana Prakriti is also called?
Rajas Pradhana Prakriti is also called Avidya or Karana Sharira.
Yes. When Brahman reflects on Avidya, the medium of Avidya, Rajas Pradhana Prakriti, we get?
It is called Jiva or Prajna.
Yes. The Tabas Pradhana Prakriti is also called?
It is called Prakriti itself.
Yeah. And then Brahman plus, the arrow is not showing right, but it goes on Tamas Pradhana Prakriti. Sorry about that. And Brahman plus Tamas Pradhana Prakriti is the reason for?
The creation.
Yes,
And
the
the tanmatra, the subtle elements come from there.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, okay. Prakriti is made of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas guna, and is divided into three types. Name them.
It should be Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, Rajo Pradhana Prakriti, and Tama Pradhana Prakriti.
Very good. The Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, again, I think this is pretty much the same thing. The Sattva Pradhana Prakriti is also called?
It's also called Maya.
Yeah. The Sattva Pradhana Prakriti has elements of Rajas and Tamas, or they don't have?
Yes, they have, but they're predominantly Sattva, but they will have some amount of the others. So answer is yes.
Okay. Maya is inert? Yes or no?
Yes, Maya is inert because Brahman is the only thing which is not inert.
That means even Avidya is inert, and even Prakriti.
Prakriti is inert.
Maya is a mirror. Consciousness reflected in Maya, the Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, gives rise to?
Ishwara.
Right. Ishwara, because it's Sattva dominant, keeps Maya under its control. Ishwara is one or many?
Ishwara is only one.
Sure. Good. Next. This is based on verse 17. Rajas Pradhana Prakriti is also called?
Is also called Karana Sharira or Avidya.
Perfect. It is dominant in Rajas, but it has elements of some...
Both Sattva and Tamas.
Yeah. All these are repeated just to get this inside, get very familiar with it. Avidya is inert. So consciousness reflected in this Avidya gives rise to?
The Jiva or Prajna.
Karana Sharina. Prajna. Avidya is a dull mirror. It stifles the power of dash.
It stifles the power of Sattva.
Yeah. It's called Sattva Malina. And Rajas is dominant. The Jiva, instead of utilizing the medium, it becomes slave to the medium and it's under its control. This is also called the cause of
Samsara.
Right. This verse, Avidya, is also called.
It should be Karana Sharira, I think.
Yes, right. The Jiva identified with the causal body is called?
It's called Prajna.
Yeah. Avidya and Jiva are one or many?
Many.
Many. Okay, the next slide, this one is for verse 18. You know how it breaks into the subtle Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, first breaks down into the 5 subtle Tanmatras. So the first rise out of the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti at the command of Ishwara is?
The first to rise out of the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, the command of the Ishwara, will be the subtle 5 elements, the Tanmatra.
Right, the Panchabhutas. Name the 5 Tanmatras that are born.
It should be Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, and Prithvi.
Right. Over here, it's called Vyat. The space is called Vyat. The air is called Pavan, Teja, Ambu, and Bhuva. In the 5 elements, if the 5 elements are born out of the Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, they will have the same elements of Tamas Pradhana Prakriti. Yes or no?
Yes, they're predominantly Tamas, but they will have some amount of Sattva and Rajas also.
True. Very good. Next. This is the verse 19. So from the Sattva part of the 5 elements, we get the 5 Jnanendriyas. From the Sattva of Akash, we get the sense of?
It will be sound, so it will be hearing.
Yes, the ears, sense of ears. The Sattva Vayu is a?
For touch and skin.
Right. So touch is good. Sattva Agni, we get what?
Sight and eyes.
Perfect. Sattva Jala?
Jala will be taste and I think tongue. Yeah.
Yes. And then Sattva Prithvi?
Smell and nose.
Perfect. And from the combined Sattva of all the 5 elements, we get?
The Antakarana, mind and intellect.
Perfect. So over here, the Antakaran is divided into the mind and the intellect in this chapter. So the nature of the Antakaran, we have to choose from these, is of thoughts. It is subtle. This Antakaran is subtle. It is formed by the combined Sattva components of all the 5 elements. And so the answer is all of the above or only 2 and 3?
I think it should be all of the above.
Yes, true. It is the nature of thoughts and then it's from how it's formed. Next question. Okay, the Antakaran is the nature of, just said it.
The Antakarana is the nature of thoughts.
Okay. Due to the difference in the function of these thoughts, the Antakaran is divided into 2 types. What are they? What are the?
Manas and Buddhi.
Perfect. When the thoughts are vacillating or wavering, it is called Vimarsha. What is?
Or Manas.
Manas. When the thoughts are reach a state of decision, those thoughts are called not the same.
Intellect or Buddhi.
Perfect. Antakaran is one organ having 2 different functions. True or false?
True.
True. Good.
Oh, good. Thank you. Very nice.
Other questions, but I deleted it. You know that picture which you showed of the cricket.
Very
So
nice. Nice
who's
question.
the batsman, sir? Can you tell who's the batsman in
The
that?
batsman in that quiz will be the Jiva.
And then who's the bowler?
Bowler and the fielders will be Jagat.
Yes. And then who's the umpire?
The umpire will be Ishwara.
Perfect. Very nice. Thank you, sir.
As we conclude this session, our sincere gratitude to Dr. Hegde sir for once again guiding us with depth, clarity that makes this teaching accessible to us. We also extend heartfelt thanks to our speakers, Dr. Ashwini, Dr. Meenal, Srimati Vidya Prabhu, Srimati Neeta, and Srimati Padma for their insightful presentations, and to Srimati Neeta for the thoughtful and reflective quiz. A warm thank you to all of you, dear friends, for your continued dedication and participation. Let us meet again on Monday, the 8th of September 2025 at 6:45 p.m. for the next session in our Mananam series, where we return to the Kathopanishad, Chapter 1, Valli 2, guided by our sir. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.